The air was thick with tension as American paratroopers hunkered down in their foxholes, ready for the upcoming wave of German troops. The eerie glow of the moonlight highlighted the sleek and elegant design of the semi-automatic rifles the soldiers were carrying, the M1 Garand. Some were in pristine condition, others had already seen combat and had their bayonets fixed. The Garand, a marvel of military engineering, was the world's first mass-produced semi-automatic rifle. Its gas-operated action, delivering 8 rounds with mechanical precision, changed the tide of battle in a world where most armies relied heavily on bolt-action rifles. As the silhouettes of the German soldiers became visible, the paratroopers adjusted the sights of their M1s and opened fire with lethal precision. Seconds later, the distinctive ping of an ejected en-bloc M1 clip echoed through the air. The bolt-action German Kar 98K could not keep up with the semi-automatic fire of the M1s, which enabled the American GIs to face the relentless enemy with determination. This weapon did not just win battles, it forged legends. In the words of General George S. Patton, the M1 Garand was, quote, the greatest battle implement ever devised. And this is its story. The story of the legendary M1 American rifle began with its designer, John Canchis Garand. Born in Saint-Rémy, Quebec in 1888, the Canadian-born designer moved to the United States a decade later. Growing up in Connecticut, Garand worked in textile mills before moving to New York and gaining experience in precision tool factories. During the course of World War I, Garand designed a lightweight, fully automatic machine rifle that was rejected by the Army, as it was already employing the BAR in the trenches of the Western Front. Nevertheless, Garand's knowledge earned him a position as a gun designer in the National Bureau of Standards during the post-war. While working at the United States Army's Springfield Armory, Garand began to design a semi-automatic replacement of the bolt-action Springfield Model 1903 rifle used during World War I. In 1920, Garand became a U.S. citizen while working on the new design, chambered for a .30 caliber cartridge. The prototype was simply dubbed Model 1919. 2 years later, the Springfield Armory delivered over 30 of these rifles, now dubbed M1922. The rifles were tested in 1925 against the weapons of other arms manufacturers, such as Thompson, Peterson, and Berthier. The .30 caliber primer actuated blowback design was updated with the M1924 design. After several inconclusive results among the competitors, the Army ordered Springfield Armory and Garand to develop a gas-operated .276 caliber model. The Army, Navy, and Marines conducted more tests in 1928 and 1929, resulting in contradictory opinions between the infantry and cavalry. More evaluations between Garand's .276 and .30 caliber rifle variants and the T1 Peterson rifle continued until 1931. Garand's prototype became the winner, but that did not stop the Army from new debates. The Chief of Staff debated which caliber to adopt. In 1933, the Army decided Garand's .30 caliber semi-automatic rifle model was the ideal replacement for the Springfield and ordered over 75 production prototypes before fielding it to the rest of the armed forces. From there on, the rifle became known as the M1 Garand. The M1 Garand was cleared for service in January 1936, with the first production model successfully tested and delivered in July 1937. The Springfield Armory began producing at a rate of over 10 rifles a day, leading to over 600 by the time the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor in December 1941. Over 5.4 million M1 Garands would be made by the time the Cold War began, with General George S. Patton calling it, quote, the greatest battle implement ever devised. He was not wrong. The M1 Garand was a military marvel for its time. First of all, the M1 was a gas-operated, magazine-fed rifle chambered for the .36 cartridge. This rifle was made primarily of steel and wood and featured a distinctive walnut stock. The main highlight of the M1 was its semi-automatic capability. Unlike bolt-action rifles, a soldier could fire one round with each pull of the trigger without manually cycling the bolt, allowing the operator to maintain a superior volume of fire and, more importantly, continue shooting the target without any involuntary movement. Another great addition of the M1 was its 8-round en-bloc clip that fed ammunition into the chamber. After the last round was fired, the clip was automatically ejected with a distinctive pinging sound. The combination of the 8-round clip and semi-automatic fire resulted in greater accuracy and reliability in combat, as soldiers could shoot at single or multiple targets without moving their aim while reloading. In addition, the Garand's robust build allowed the rifle to withstand the rigors of combat, making it highly effective in different combat scenarios. From desert landscapes to forests, humid jungles, and snow environments, the M1 proved durable and delivered the firepower the typical American GI required to achieve victory against Japanese and Germans alike. The design of the M1 Garand also allowed for relatively easy disassembly and maintenance, a practical advantage for every frontline soldier fighting against the enemy in the environment, especially in the Pacific Theater. The M1 featured adjustable iron sights, allowing for precise aiming at different distances. It comprises a rear receiver aperture sight with sturdy ears that can be calibrated in 100-yard increments. The bullet drop compensation and range knob could be finely adjusted and fixed for optimal combat at ranges of up to 500 yards. A muzzle velocity of around 2,800 yards a minute guaranteed the rounds made their way to the intended targets with optimal accuracy, and 10% faster than the German Kar 98K. The Garand was equipped with swivels for attaching a sling, making it easier for soldiers to carry. The rifle could be used with different types of bayonets that went from 10 to 16 inches long for close-quarters combat. During the island-hopping or leapfrogging campaign to the Pacific Theater against the Empire of Japan, U.S. soldiers and Marines would resort to their bayonets frequently due to the desperate Japanese banzai or human wave attacks. The M7 rifle grenade launcher was another accessory used during the later stages of the war, with great effect against the German and Japanese armies. This tube-shaped 22mm grenade launcher could be easily attached to the end of the barrel instead of the bayonet. A blank cartridge of the M1 could propel a rifle grenade up to 330 yards in an arc, braced on the ground with a special rubber boot fitted on the stock. Soldiers and Marines employed the M15 sight attached to the left side of the stock to target the projectile accordingly. American infantry squads received 2 to 3 M7 grenade launchers so they could launch regular M2 pineapple fragmentation grenades, M9 anti-tank grenades, or smoke grenades. During the war, the Army and Marines would also employ marksman or sniper variants of the M1 Garand in limited numbers. These M1s were modified to employ different scope mounts. Such was the case of the M1C, which featured an M84 telescope and rear sight protector and was accepted as a sniper rifle in June 1944 to supplement the Springfield bolt-action rifle. The M1 Garand was fielded to American soldiers before the Japanese attack on the Philippines in December 1941, and was delivered in greater numbers by the time Army troops landed in North Africa as part of Operation Torch, making the United States the first country to enter a war with a semi-automatic rifle as its standard-issue weapon. The Marines, staying true to their rifleman motto, kept using Springfields until 1943, when they officially adopted the M1 Garand to fight the Japanese during the Battle of Guadalcanal and the subsequent conquest of the Solomon Islands. Soon, the Wehrmacht and the Imperial Japanese Army discovered they were being suppressed by the superior fire rate of U.S. riflemen equipped with M1 Garands compared to their reliable but slower Arisakas and Mausers. Despite their superior semi-automatic rifles, the GIs were still fighting highly prepared and skilled opponents. At a squad level, the Americans and the Allied troops were outmatched by the devastating fire rate of the mighty MG-34s and MG-42s of the German Army and Waffen-SS. It was only thanks to the combined fire rate of the M1 Garand and several BARs that the Americans were able to overcome the lethality of the MG-42 and maneuver on the battlefield with more freedom, granting the Allies victory in 1945. Although the Germans began fielding the world's first assault rifle, the STG-44, in late 1944, it arrived too late to change the tide of the war, as the M1 Garand had done in Europe and the Pacific. Germany, the USSR, and Japan also came up with their own versions of semi-automatic rifles, such as the SVT-40, Sturmgewehr 43, and the Japanese Type 4 rifle, a reverse-engineered model of the M1. Still, none was mass-produced, as the M1 Garand and the lightweight M1 carbine. American troops were issued their Garand with a loadout of 10 clips or 80 rounds, a bayonet, a brown leather or live canvas strap, and a cleaning kit. The previously mentioned M7 grenade launchers were distributed among the squad. Although the M1 provided GIs with enormous benefits, it was not without its faults. For instance, it weighed over 11 pounds and was 43.7 inches long, making it almost the same length and weight as standard bolt-action rifles. This was one of the reasons why the Army and Marines later adopted the M1 carbine, as it was lighter and more compact for more personal engagements with the enemy. Also still debated today is the theory that the pinging sound produced from the clip ejection alerted enemy troops that Marines or soldiers had run out of ammunition and were about to reload. Some claimed the Germans and Japanese would counterattack as soon as they heard several pings, but no official source has ever credited this, as it's unlikely that during an active combat zone, the enemy would be able to clearly hear the Garand's ping. Another false claim is that M1 Garands could not be reloaded until the entire clip was ejected after firing the 8 rounds. Soldiers could manually introduce single rounds into the half-empty clip and completely eject it if desired. Nonetheless, it was not that easy, and more often than not, soldiers ended up with what was called Garand's thumb, due to their thumb getting stuck in the chamber while reloading. Following the end of the war, the M1 Garand was supplied to Allied nations worldwide. It served honorably during the Korean War of 1950 to 53, where it remained the standard-issue rifle of the American Armed Forces. The all-American rifle quickly made its way to European, American, and Asian armies, especially South Vietnam, where the M1 Garand was delivered among thousands of BARs, Thompsons, and .45 caliber pistols. By the time the U.S. troops were deployed to Vietnam from 1965 onwards, it was not uncommon for GIs to find themselves being shot at by M1 Garands stolen by the Viet Cong or communist guerrilla forces. Garands were also employed by Fidel Castro's armed forces during the Cuban Revolution of the early 1960s. Despite its reliability, the M1 was phased out by the U.S. military with the introduction of the M14, an improved and more powerful variant of the M1 capable of automatic fire. Nevertheless, the legendary status of the M1 Garand has stood the test of time, and it's employed today by U.S. honor units alongside the M14 and other rifles. In addition, the venerable rifle is a valuable collector's item, and competitions are held yearly with the Garand across the United States. The M1 Garand's design, unique ping, and power remain a symbol of American industrial capacity, and more importantly, wartime courage.